one of the reasons I was excited to have you here is I know there are plenty of people that can implement AI or like traditional machine learning, and there are plenty of people that are aware of the problems that can be caused by using AI responsibly. But I think you have two things that differentiate it, and the first one is you actually help companies build propositions and actually give them very tangible feedback on how to do it. So maybe the first thing I would like to know is, let's say that a company hires you and says, hey, help us do AI more responsibly. The first task is going to be to come here and assess how badly we're doing. More or less, what are the things that you look for?
I think initially for me, it starts with guiding principles. Like, do you know as an organization what is your acceptable standard? Because, you know, we are all ethicists, we all have a moral compass, and an organization also has it. And usually it's tied to your values and mission and vision, etc., but mainly values, right? What are your core values as an organization? To be able to answer it as an organization, you need to at least know it for yourself as an individual. But so that's usually that definition of defining your guiding principles or defining your organizational ethical compass. That's where it starts. And we do that with top-level stakeholders first. So it's like a two-phase workshop setup that we do. But then, let's say, output of that stage would be a set of guiding principles. And some of them can be very standard. There's a set that is standard for, like, you know, transparency or fairness, things like that. But there's also a set that's very tailored to organization. Like, let's say, if you're very much into being inclusive organization and promote diversity, then definitely your AI solution needs to be also inclusive for all of its users, for example. Okay. So that's usually where it starts.
So you start by putting all of your principles in paper?
Yeah. It would be like your, I don't want to say it North Star, but that would be like, these are the principles that guide us. And then, okay, how do we embed those in your organization, right? Like, how do we actually implement this? Then you have let's say, implementation phase, and it's twofold because you have actual technical implementation, right? So that's, think about things like the CI/CD pipeline, everything along the CI/CD pipeline, there's things you could do at each step, and it is a loop. It's a continuous process in a way. But also, if you look at it from a use case perspective, then you're from ideation all the way to industrialization and maintenance, there are also some things you could do and questions to be asked at ideation, like, should we be doing this? But in the maintenance, there may be more different types of questions you would ask yourself. That's the technical, like, embedding, but there's also an organizational implementation, like, okay, that very tightly relates also to data management and data governance in a way. So do you have like a multidisciplinary team doing use case assessments? You know, they can do the things related with data governance, but they might also be able to do it with regards to like some ethical considerations, because it's also a multidisciplinary team. If it's a startup, it might look slightly different. You know, so there's also a lot of variations there. And then after you've embedded it, like you did the technical implementation, then it's the question like, okay, how do we actually manage it? How do we make sure that we maintain it properly? So then it's more really about AI governance, feedback loops, mechanisms, but also things like policy creation, because I noticed many times people like to start with policy and then try to implement the policy. But it feels to me that policy is something that you would like to, it's like documenting stuff the way you do it so that it, you know, meets each other in a way. So you have your principles, those determine a lot of your policy, of course, but you know your policy best once you've done the process, because it can be that in the process, in actual technical embedding, some things are different than you expected, like it usually is. So the policy might change from that, and then it would be, I think, less pragmatic to do it the other way around. So I'm more of a favor of writing it down in a policy after you did the embedding. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine it's tricky because let's say that in our organization, we only care about diversity.
Yeah.
How do you operationalize what exactly that means and how that translates to technology?
But do we, so to just give you an example, I had lately, I think, a client that did a pilot of like a generative AI pilot, and they did it based on public data. And now they wanted to add more sensitive data to it, and they wanted to do it responsibly. So that was the step that they approached me to start off with this framework. And then you actually take that specific use case at hand as the actual case that you go through. And then, okay, if you would enrich this with the sensitive data, what effects that might have, and that you do in a multidisciplinary team with privacy people, with security people, with data, like a mixture. And that brings out to light your ethical dilemmas relevant to your organizations. What are the questions that arise and that you cannot answer, right? Some of them are really dilemmas because a dilemma puts you like on the spot. You cannot actually make a decision. You don't want to. So these tensions you want to bring out so that you can take them towards the upper management and really work through to make them into your principles.
Okay, so it's more like starting with a use case, focus on the details, and then slowly zoom out until you have. I would say the implementation is still very much use case based approach. That's why I think it's very well to be combined with data management initiatives or data governance initiatives.